Hello everyone, and welcome. We often hear about the big dramatic events that define our world, but history is also made every single day in ways we might not expect. So today, we're going to take a look back at 1 week and discover the stories behind the stories. This week in history, July 1st through July 7th.
July 1st, 1979. On this day, a small, unassuming blue and silver box with headphones hit the shelves in Japan. It wasn't a radio, and it couldn't record. All it did was play cassette tapes. But it was about to change the world. This was the birth of the Sony Walkman and the personal soundtrack. Before this, music was something you shared in your home or your car. But the Walkman made music personal. Suddenly, the entire world could have its own private soundtrack. The city streets, the park, the bus ride home. It all became a movie starring you. The Walkman wasn't just about listening. It was about expressing yourself. Suddenly, teenagers had their own private worlds, their own soundtracks to their lives. It influenced fashion, dance, and the very fabric of youth culture. The Walkman wasn't just about listening. It was about expressing yourself. Suddenly, teenagers had their own private worlds, their own soundtracks to their lives. It influenced fashion, dance, and the very fabric of youth culture. So, the next time you put on your headphones and press play, take a moment to remember this little blue box. It wasn't just a gadget. It was a revolution that gave the entire world its own personal soundtrack. The Walkman didn't just play music, it created a culture. It was the original social media, a way to share your world without saying a word. If this story brought back some memories, or if you just love the history of how we connect, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe for more.
From a revolution in how we listen to music, we turn to a revolution in how we shop. Next up, the story of how a single, no-frills store in a small Arkansas town grew into a global empire. On this day, July the 2nd.
July 2nd, 1962. In the small town of Rogers, Arkansas, a man named Sam Walton opened the doors to a new kind of store. It wasn't flashy. The sign was simple. He called it Walmart. No one knew it then, but this humble 5 and dime was the first seed of a retail empire that would one day change the world. The founder, Sam Walton, was a no-frills, down-to-earth businessman from America's heartland. His philosophy was simple but radical for the time. Buy in bulk, keep prices as low as possible, and pass the savings on to the customer. He believed a store could succeed by serving the forgotten, smaller towns of America. Inside, there were no fancy displays or expensive fixtures. The aisles were simple, the floors were linoleum, but they were packed with merchandise at prices people had never seen before. From household goods to toys, the promise was always the lowest prices. It was a simple motto that would build an empire. From that single store in Arkansas, Walton's model began to spread. First to Missouri, then to Oklahoma, then across the entire country. By the 1980s, these simple stores had evolved into massive supercenters, changing the landscape of American retail forever. Today, Walmart is one of the largest companies on the planet, a global giant that all started with one man's simple idea in a small Arkansas town. It's a powerful story of American ambition and a testament to the revolutionary idea of always low prices. From a single storefront in Rogers, Arkansas, to a global phenomenon, the story of Walmart is a powerful chapter in the American dream. If you enjoyed this look back at how our world was shaped, be sure to give us a like, follow for more, and subscribe for your daily dose of history.
Next, we move from the aisles of a department store to the fields of Pennsylvania for a day of incredible bravery and devastating loss, a single, desperate charge that would become the turning point of the American Civil War. On this day, July 3rd,
July 3rd, 1863. For 2 bloody days, the fields around the small Pennsylvania town of Gettysburg had been a scene of unimaginable horror. The Union Army held the high ground on Cemetery Ridge, battered but unbroken. Across the open fields, the Confederate Army, convinced one more push could win the war, prepared for a final, desperate gamble. At around 1 p.m., the quiet was shattered. A massive artillery barrage, likely the largest of the entire war, erupted from the Confederate lines. For nearly 2 hours, over 150 cannons pounded the Union position on Cemetery Ridge, an attempt to soften the line for the infantry assault to come. Then, the cannons fell silent. From the line of trees on Seminary Ridge, nearly 12,500 Confederate soldiers emerged and formed a line almost a mile wide. With parade ground precision, they began the long, determined march across the open field toward the Union center. This was Pickett's charge. As they crossed the field under withering fire, the Confederate lines began to break, but a fraction of the force under General Lewis Armistead breached the Union defenses at a point known as the Angle. For a few desperate moments, the fate of the battle hung in the balance amidst brutal hand-to-hand combat. But the breakthrough couldn't last. The charge was repulsed. The Confederate soldiers who survived the brutal fighting at the wall were forced to fall back, retreating across the same open field they had just crossed with such determination. It was a devastating failure, and it would prove to be the high water mark of the Confederacy. Heat charge was broken, the battle was over, and the tide of the American Civil War had turned for good. The high water mark of the Confederacy had been reached and thrown back. If you believe moments like this in history are worth remembering, please show your support with a like and subscribe for more stories that shaped our nation.
For our next story, we stay in the early days of America to uncover one of the most unbelievable and poetic coincidences in all of history. A final, fateful chapter for 2 of the nation's founding fathers.
Thomas Jefferson survives.
July 4th, 1826. All across the young nation of America, cannons boomed and bells rang. Citizens celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, a golden jubilee of freedom. But as the festivities unfolded, an unbelievable historical coincidence was quietly taking place. The 2 men were Thomas Jefferson in Virginia and John Adams in Massachusetts. They were the brilliant minds behind the Declaration, once the closest of friends turned bitter political rivals and then friends again in their old age. For decades, they were the twin pillars of American independence. In Virginia, Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration, was fading. Gravely ill for weeks, he seemed determined to hold on for the anniversary. Just after noon on the 4th of July, surrounded by his family at his home, Monticello, he passed away. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles north, John Adams was also on his deathbed. Unaware that his friend and rival had already passed away hours earlier, his mind was on their shared legacy. That afternoon he stirred, and with his last breath, whispered the famous words, "Thomas Jefferson survives." Of course, Adams was wrong. Jefferson had died just 5 hours earlier. As news of the two deaths spread across the country in the following days, the nation was left in stunned silence. The coincidence was seen as a powerful, almost divine sign of the importance of their shared creation. Rivals in politics, but brothers in revolution, their lives were forever intertwined. For them to die on the same day, the 50th anniversary of the nation they created remains one of the most poignant and powerful chapters in American history. If you found this story as incredible as we do, please show your support with a like and subscribe for more amazing stories from history.
Now, let's head to a small recording studio in Memphis, Tennessee. The story of a young truck driver who, while fooling around on a break, accidentally stumbled upon a sound that would change music forever. On this day, July 5th.
July 5th, 1954. In a small, unassuming recording studio in Memphis, history was about to get a new soundtrack. This was the Memphis Recording Service, run by producer Sam Phillips, a man on the hunt for a new sound. In walks a 19-year-old truck driver named Elvis Presley. The session was not going well. He sang ballad after ballad, but nothing clicked. Sam Phillips was about to send him home. It seemed like just another failed audition. Then, during a break, Elvis grabbed his guitar and started fooling around. He launched into an old blues song, "That's All Right" by Arthur Crudup, but he sang it faster, with a nervous, electric energy. In the control room, Sam Phillips hit the record button. This was it. This was the sound he'd been looking for. Sam Phillips rushed the recording to local DJ Dewey Phillips. He played it on the radio and the phone lines exploded. Listeners had never heard anything like it. A white kid singing the blues with a country feel. They demanded to know who the singer was. Rock and roll had just been born. From that one spontaneous moment, a revolution started. Elvis Presley would go from being a shy truck driver to the king of rock and roll, changing music, fashion, and culture forever. It all goes back to that hot July night in Memphis, a moment of pure, unplanned magic that proves you never know when lightning is about to strike. If you enjoyed learning about this pivotal moment in music history, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more daily documentaries. It all happened on July 5th.
From the birth of the king of rock and roll, we go to a simple church party in Liverpool, England. A story of a chance meeting between two teenagers, a handshake that would create the most important musical partnership of the 20th century. On this day, July 6th,
July 6th, 1957. A sunny afternoon at a church festival in Liverpool, England. On stage is a 16-year-old rebel named John Lennon and his band, The Quarrymen. But in that crowd was a 15-year-old named Paul McCartney, and he was impressed. John was forgetting some of the words and making up his own. Paul thought he was cool, witty, and a real leader. After the set, a mutual friend, Ivan Vaughn, made the introduction. "John," he said, "this is Paul. He knows how to play the guitar, too." But then, Paul did something that stunned John. He picked up a guitar and flawlessly played 20 Flight Rock by Eddie Cochran, a difficult song. He knew every chord and every word. He even showed John how to tune his guitar. The singer was stunned. This new kid was a natural, a true talent. He knew he had a choice to make. He could keep his band exactly as it was and remain the undisputed star, or he could invite this brilliant, slightly better musician to join him and see what could happen. John Lennon had a choice. He could keep his band and be the undisputed leader, or he could let this talented kid in who was clearly better than him. 2 weeks later, he made his decision. He asked Paul to join the Quarrymen. It was the simple, fateful choice that would create the Beatles and change the world forever.
And finally, we close out our week with a look at an invention so simple, so convenient, that it literally became the benchmark for every great idea that followed. The story of a machine that changed our kitchens forever. On this day, July 7th,
it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Before July 7th, 1928, every household in America had a daily chore, slicing the bread. Every morning you'd take out a long knife and saw away at a fresh loaf, hoping for a straight, even cut. But one inventor in Chillicothe, Missouri, thought there had to be a better way. That inventor was Otto Rohvetter. For years, he had been obsessed with creating a machine that could both slice and wrap a loaf of bread. After a fire destroyed his first prototype, he finally perfected his invention. A massive, complicated-looking machine that promised to change bakeries forever. On July 7th, 1928, the Chillicothe Baking Company of Missouri became the first bakery in the world to sell pre-sliced bread. Marketed as clean-made sliced bread, it was wrapped in wax paper to keep the slices from drying out. At first, the public was skeptical. Many thought it was a fad that wouldn't last. But the convenience of pre-sliced bread was undeniable. Soon, other bakeries started adopting Rohvetter's machine, and within a few years, sliced bread was a staple in American households. It was perfect for sandwiches, toast, and, well, just about everything. The invention was so successful that it helped popularize one of America's most iconic brands, Wonder Bread, which became one of the first national distributors of sliced bread. The convenience was so profound, so game-changing, that by the 1940s, a new phrase had entered the American lexicon to describe any great new idea. The greatest thing since sliced bread. So the next time you make a piece of toast or a quick sandwich, take a moment to remember Otto Rohvetter and his strange, wonderful machine. It's a simple convenience we take for granted, but it truly was one of the greatest things. If you enjoyed this slice of history, please like this video and subscribe for more stories behind the everyday things that changed our world.